Princess and the Pea. Once upon a time, there was a young prince who searched long and far to marry a princess. The prince's parents, the king and the queen, ruled over a kingdom. They wanted the prince to marry a real princess. Then the kingdom could be passed on to the prince. The prince knew that his parents wanted him to marry right away. He wanted to marry too, but every time he met a princess, something was wrong. He would meet a girl, really like her, and begin to make plans to marry. He would tell his parents they always checked first to make sure she was a real princess. Every time they discovered that the girl pretended to be a princess had fooled the prince. She was not a real princess, after all. The prince continued to search for a princess to marry. He looked, but he could not find a true princess. The king and queen told him to hurry up and get married. The prince became disappointed. He could just not find a real princess. He was almost ready to give up when one day a terrible rainstorm poured over the kingdom. The rain came down in bucketfuls over the huge palace with its high towers and fancy drawbridge. In the middle of the fierce rainstorm, the prince heard a knock on the city gate. He let down the drawbridge and saw a girl standing there, sopping wet. Water dripped from her hair and her clothes. The prince told her to come in out of the rain. The girl was so wet you could wring out her clothes. As the girl stood there dripping wet, she began to explain that she was a real princess. He could not believe that she was a princess standing there, drenched from the rain. The prince was excited at the idea that she might be a real princess. He invited her to change her wet clothes and to eat supper with him and his parents. As they talked, the prince realized that he really liked the girl very much. He told the queen, but again, the queen wondered if the girl was a real princess. The prince had been fooled so many times before. Maybe the girl was fooling him too. The prince and the queen looked the girl over, but they could not be sure. The queen had a way that would test if the girl was telling the truth. The queen hurried to tell a servant to set up a bed in the guest room. The servant was told to put a pea on the bed. On top of the pea, she placed 20 mattresses. Then the servant put another 20 quilts on top of the 20 mattresses. That was the bed on which the princess had to sleep. Later that evening, after the girl had finished eating and was ready for bed, she went to the guest room. She climbed all the way to the top of the 20 mattresses and 20 quilts. The next morning, the girl came downstairs where the king, queen, and prince were eating breakfast. The queen asked the girl, "Did you sleep well last night?" "So terribly," cried the girl. "I could not sleep at all. I tossed and turned all night. There was something hard in my bed that my whole body ached. Every time I moved, it hurt me. I could not sleep at all." The queen was thrilled. "She's a real princess," she exclaimed the queen. The prince was excited too. He married her right away, and they lived happily ever after.